My name is Robert Christopher Wayne Weathers. I live at 3102 Center Hill Road, Acre, Mississippi, 38841. I am under attack by what appears to be Scientology. So people are driving parasites through me from a remote location. I can also hear their voices. They are very hostile and demeaning. They are threatening me and my family. They keep harassing me constantly. They are addicted to torturing me. They are premeditating our deaths. So this is what I have experienced. It appears that there is more space in the universe than humans can see. There are 11 dimensions. These dimensions reside within the particle itself. So inside of the particles in which we consist of lie 11 dimensions. You can consider the third dimensional universe as a shell. There is another place inside of this matter in which we consist of. We have biology in this other place. So inside of the particles in which we are made of lies more biology, 11 dimensional biology. We utilize this extra dimensional biology to have an afterlife. When we die, we leave ourselves and live on. Scientology is a practice of utilizing this extra dimensional biology before we die. So first off, there's an entanglement property between our third dimension and our inner dimensions. If you remove a piece of biology from us, no matter how far away it goes, you are still in this biology. What it appears like from our perspective is if the further you take it away, the more space-time in between you removing biology and us shrinks. So if you take something away from us, the distance in between us shrinks. What happens is you can't remove energy from within the particle. The particle will be destroyed. So in an attempt to keep the particles whole, space-time conforms to ensure that energy never leaves the particle. Scientologists use this entanglement property for part of their technology. So they like to remove brain tissue and biology. They mostly remove brain stems, our thalamus, and our eyes, and other brain tissue. There are compounds on Earth in which they store this brain tissue. So they have little pods or little boxes. Put your brain tissue in or your biology in this pod, and they will install it into a wall or a storage system. From there, they can interface your biology to a computer system. They use electrodes and devices and sensors and things. And this interfaces the the owner's biology to a computer system. From there, they can communicate with each other and interact with each other in a digital landscape. And this also acts as a command center for them to drive their upper dimensions. So then another technique of technology or Scientology is that Scientologists will remove their extra dimensions, the whole thing, and they will turn it into one or more biologies in which they can drive around in the upper dimensions. So our extra dimensions present themselves in layers. Whenever energy comes out of our third into in the inner dimensions, it creates a biology in the next three dimensions. And then the energy passes a boundary, so it goes into the next three dimensions. and it creates a layer on top of this biology. And then it does it for the next three dimensions. It creates another layer, and the next three or next two, whatever it is. You wind up with a bunch of layers. It looks like those little Russian dolls, a doll inside of a doll inside of a doll. So Scientologists like to remove this biology from themselves as much as they can, or most of it. And they like to cut themselves along the dimensional lines. And they wind up with three biologies in outer space that they can modify and turn into an extra dimensional vehicle. So these biologies can't function properly being cut this way. Normally, upon death, we pull our entire biology out of ourselves. They call it raising or turning around. You leave nothing but a shell. You leave nothing but the very outside of our biology. And you take everything else with you when you die. So the human genome produces an 11-dimensional humanoid with horns on our head. We have a head covering. We have features like a soul tube. We have very short arms and big hands. We have these tubes that come out of our feet that expel waste. We are designed to fly through outer space. We are designed to leave Earth and never return. We have a head covering. We can survive the extremities of outer space. So when we fly, nothing hurts our head. It's for protection. So these Scientologists remove this thing from them. They chop it into pieces. Every three dimensions, they cut it again and wind up with three or four biologies in outer space that they can modify and turn into an upper dimensional vehicle. But they can't survive this way. First off, they lose something by cutting themselves. They don't do the turning around of the rays in which a dead person does. So they lose things like homeostasis, the ability to produce biochemical electricity, the ability to function and process energy properly. Whenever they cut themselves, they can't you can't make two organs. So you got one organ that's 11-dimensional organ. So they'll cut this organ into pieces. Either that or they'll leave it behind on one organism. So they have to utilize organs and tissues from other humans and other species in an attempt to make themselves whole again and function properly. So they use organs and tissues from other humans, lizards or reptiles, insects, and worms. So they make lizard people, they make insectoids, and they make worm people, and then they make several alien forms. And there's the human form. So on top of these transplants, these organisms or these Scientologists have to utilize an artificial source of energy to provide a biochemical electricity to these organisms to make them function properly. So I mentioned we have a soul tube. It is actually a sexual organ. It runs the length of our spinal column. It is a tube, a hollow tube, filled with blood vessels and nerves. It attaches into our sexual organ, and it has this little drum looking thing on it. It goes straight up into our brain. In front of our medulla, it goes straight up into our brain. It's like a ball. We use this appendage for sexual purposes on Earth. It is part of our reproductive system. It allows us sexual stimulation and orgasms. So they like to cut a hole in us, in our groin, and then they run an electrode up and merge it with this soul tube, and then they stimulate it. It provides them uh, a biochemical electricity, or it provides them electricity so they can function properly because it goes straight into the brain. So now a whole bunch of people on Earth have upper dimensional organisms. They have an alien. They are driving aliens from Earth. Aliens are remote controlled. And they utilize technology and technique to get to access the upper dimensions and for several other purposes. So first, they like to store part of their biology or their brain tissue inside of a storage system. It is a computer system. Second, they utilize technology on whatever's left behind in their third dimension. So they like to interface devices with their brain and central nervous system tissue. Some of these devices are recording devices. So they call these things preservision because it records your vision, preserves your vision. They call it a preservision device. So these devices, they record our sensory perception input. They record our sight, our hearing, our taste, our smell, our touch. And then some of these devices stimulate us. And then there's also a screen. They call it a thalamus screen or whatever. It's a screen that interfaces with either our thalamus or our visual cortex in our brain. And it acts as uh, a screen in which you can control. So it intercepts your the visual processes in your brain. You know how you can imagine things or see things in your mind? This gives you uh, another source of media or a place to put it. So you can actually stimulate the screen. And they can also stimulate it for you so they can show you things on this screen. And then they also have auditory phones, so it allows you to hear them and hear the upper dimensions. And then they can stimulate neural tissue, so they can isolate individual memories, neural connections, or thought patterns and stimulate this area of our brain tissue. So they can make you experience a memory, or they can make you experience a thought pattern, and they can stimulate memories and thought patterns one after another. And they can actually make you experience things like a dream. They can make you dance around, or uh, you can even play music or do a bunch of things. Experience some kind of little skit or a little act, and you're actually the person in it. Like they have one little skit they call it driving the purple dinosaur or whatever. It's where you're a little kid and you're riding a purple dinosaur. You dance around in a circle and then turn around and wink, get an ego boost, and it's very pleasurable. It's things like that. And then this technology elevates neurochemistry. They can run energy through our neurons. and this stimulates neurochemical production. It elevates neurochemicals like dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin. So it has an extremely narcotic-like effect upon the user. So the Scientology community is largely a criminal institution. They do things like they kidnap people, they force assimilation, they traffic humans. So people with influence, power, or authority get forced to assimilate into Scientology. If they aren't forced to assimilate, then they get worked on. These Scientologists, they will modify their biology or they even sabotage people and make them sick. So people with authority or influence or power get forced to assimilate so that these people can control these people's behavior. They like to kidnap people. Either they are attracted to you for some reason or for sexual reasons. They traffic humans. They do things like invade our privacy. They invade our homes and our businesses. They'll even use their upper dimensions as lookouts so they can break into our homes and businesses. Biological theft is rampant. So they're stealing biology from a lot of people. Stop, Fuku. They're stealing biology from people in mass. On social media and the marketing companies, they're taking eye tissue and brain tissue from their users so they can invade our privacy and read our thoughts and then attempt to sell us things using internet ads and commercials. Yes, it helps them set up our algorithms. And there are compounds on Earth that house people's biology, the public's biology. Yes, and if people go against their agenda, or Coco, stop, stop. If people go against their agenda in any way,